Welcome back. I'm Micheal Maxwell, and today we're going to be doing another in our continuing series of readings from my books. And today it's The Time Peddler. Now, years ago, when I was a kid, our family used to drive up into the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains to a little town called Sonora. And used to get very thick tule fog down in the Central Valley of California. And my poor mom would go nuts and say, I gotta get out of this fog. So we would drive up to Sonora and maybe stay in a motel, have dinner, go to a movie, whatever the case was. But it was a nice escape from the fog and back up into the sunshine. Little did I know that a little over 50 years later, I would move to Sonora. And even more did I not know that 40 some years later, I would write a book based on my memories of Sonora as a kid. And the funny thing is, no dream of ever moving to Sonora, but here I am. And so today we're going to read a portion of the first chapter of The Time Peddler. It's a series of books. Each book is a semester in the life of our hero, Chant, and each semester of high school. And there will be 8 books when the series is finished. There's currently 6 published, and we're hard at work on 7 and 8. And so without further ado, here's chapter 1 of The Time Peddler by Micheal Maxwell. Oh, by the way, please hit the like and subscribe. I know you hear that on every single YouTube video you watch, but it's really actually important. I don't get any money for it. But what it does do is it puts it into the algorithm and the rotation so that other folks see it and go, oh, that might be fun, and they watch it, okay? Which the dirty downside is I'm trying to sell some books. Got it? So if you'd be so kind as to do that, subscribe and like the video. If you hate it, just move along. All right, chapter 1. My name is Chant Baker. My family is what you might call different. My parents are what you might call hippies. They aren't real 60s hippies because they weren't born until the 70s. In fact, that is a source of amusement to a lot of my friends. We usually get a lot of giggles and stares when we go places because we don't look like your average 21st century American family. My parents met while they were camping out in line to buy tickets to see the Grateful Dead. Back then, they were students at the University of California in Berkeley. My mom offered my dad one of her homemade eucalyptus honey and cashew granola bars. My dad said it was love at first bite. I was born in Santa Cruz, California 15 years ago. My dad was finishing his master's degree in textile dyes at the UC Santa Cruz. My parents always joked that my mom put her thesis on hold to have me. She was getting her master's in food science. My whole life, my parents have followed their dreams. My dad makes the coolest tie-dyed shirts you've ever seen. His most prized possession is a 2-foot by 3-foot picture of Jerry Garcia wearing one of his shirts. My favorite is a shirt he made for me that in the center of the tie-dye pattern is a foot-tall seahorse. I wear it on all special occasions. The second time my mom started her thesis, she had my sister Chai. It was decided that with a boy and a girl, they had the yin and the yang to balance our family. So, not to take any chances, she decided to give up on the thesis. The lack of degrees has not held her back from following her dreams. She has developed some of the most delicious granola on the planet. She has shipped it all over the world. A big company in San Francisco asked her to let them market her granola nationwide. But when she refused to add preservatives, the deal fell through. Now she will have her own little shop. It is fun to see her so happy. In our family, there are 2 different words. The first one is peace. Everything we do in life should help to bring peace to the world. The second is entrepreneur. It means a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. That's us. My parents have always made things and sold them. They believe that they are free, that way they're free of corporate influence and can do things that are friendly to the earth and show love to their fellow man. That's what brings us to Sonora, California. Our family is opening a shop. It will be called Transitions Harmony Health Emporium. We purchased a 150-year-old building. It will have a shop at the street level and living quarters upstairs. The shop will have 36 different kinds of granola that my mom makes, tie-dyed shirts, scarves, and skirts that my dad makes, and a variety of earth-friendly products that our friends around the world make. Today, I went to school here for the first time. It was very different than my school in Berkeley. Sonora High School has 7 periods a day, 6 of which count 6 if you count lunch. Don't count lunch, excuse me. I have English, world history, earth science, PE, speech, and woodshop. I was told that I'm a freshman or a 9th grader. At my old school, we weren't labeled with any grade names or levels. In Berkeley, we had pods, where we explored learning with a group of friends and discovered things about the world around us. You learn things by following your interests. Your mentor monitored your progress and acted as a guide. Public school is going to be a real adventure. In English class today, we read from Romeo and Juliet. I read all the tragedies last year, so it seemed kind of a waste of time to read 3 pages. The poor teacher had to keep stopping to explain what things meant. In history, we saw a video about the Dark Ages. I enjoyed the speech class the most. The teacher seemed to be a pretty hip guy. When I told the class I was from Berkeley, Mr. Kellen told the class all about the free speech movement at UC Berkeley in the 60s. Speech class was as good as it got, I'm afraid. Woodshop was like Dante's Inferno. Even though I saw several kids who dressed goth and a few skater punks in the halls, I guess the cowboys in my woodshop class were not ready for my tie-dyed seahorse t-shirt and my Kalapuri sandals from India. I learned long ago that people always have a hard time accepting new people or people who are different. I got some comments they thought were clever, and one guy tried to get tough with me. I've been down this road before, and I just smiled and tried to have a positive attitude. Even though our family is committed to peace and believes in love for all people, we're not foolish enough to think that friendly smiles will always send bullies away. When I was 9 years old, I enrolled in jiu-jitsu class. Jiu-jitsu is actually a way of building your self-confidence and staying physically fit. It really helps to protect yourself if you ever have a confrontation with someone who might want to hurt you. You learn not only martial arts to protect yourself, but you also learn to be positive and control your emotions. The part I like now that I am older is that jiu-jitsu class taught me really effective communication skills. This is really important, like today. I felt I was ready to resolve the conflict with the bully in a non-violent way. If not, I knew I could protect myself without really hurting the other guy. The problem was that he didn't know how to deal with someone new and different. It was a relief to walk through the doors of our new store. It was really good to see my dad covered in sawdust and sweat. He was building the bins for my mom's granola. He tore out a wall and found old oak boards that he was now using to make bins. The oak bins will have clear acrylic lids when he's finished. All of the granolas will be sold in bulk and by the pound. "Hi, sweetheart," Mother called from the top of the ladder where she was hanging a mobile. "Hey, buddy," Dad said, turning off the shop vac. "How was school?" It was an experience. In our family, this is code for it could have been really better. "I have some fresh banana cranberry bread in the kitchen on the kitchen table. Why don't you go have a snack and then come give us a hand?" No matter how much work there was to be done or how tired she was, Mother always took time to bake something fresh for us to eat. I ran up the stairs to dump my backpack and get a slice of bread. "Hi, Chai, how was your school?" I asked my sister, seeing her head peeking out of from behind a door. It was okay, I guess. How about you? I was in the 7th grade and was blessed with the ability to make friends with anybody. I was a bit concerned by her response. If she was having a hard time, then my day was a real success. It's real different than Freedom Co-op, that's for sure. I guess we'll get used to it, she said softly. I miss Carrie, that's all. You'll make new friends, don't worry. I grabbed a thick slice of the warm bread and poured a tall glass of milk and ran back downstairs to help my parents. What's my job? I asked with a mouth still full. Clean up crew. Dad was coming down towards me with a broom and a dustpan. This place needs a good sweeping. First this room, then you can sweep out the back room. Rooms? How many are there? I'm really not sure, so that's why I want you to explore as you sweep. Very funny, I said. I was pretty sure he was just telling me that to get me to sweep out the back rooms. My parents had an appointment at the bank. They locked the front door and went happily down the street. I looked at the storeroom door and decided the sooner I got it all swept out, the sooner I could go explore downtown. I picked up the dustpan, pulled the big blue plastic barrel we were using for trash behind me, and headed to the back room. After a few minutes, it didn't take that long to sweep up. I decided I would go exploring a bit, and I saw a door behind a stack of empty moving boxes. I don't know how I missed it before. I shoved the boxes out of the way so I could turn the doorknob. The door was locked. It was a very old door, and the lock looked like the ones upstairs, which my dad had used a skeleton key. Several of the closet doors upstairs were locked when we arrived, and Dad used an old-fashioned key to open them all. I ran downstairs, found one of the skeleton keys hanging around a hook. That rusty old skeleton key opened the door. A flight of wooden stairs led into the darkness. I felt around the wall to the door frame for a light switch. Couldn't find one. I remembered a flashlight behind the counter my dad used for the fuse boxes. There were several old posters on the wall when I got back downstairs with the flashlight. But they were faded and stained so badly you couldn't hardly read them. One was an ad for flour, the other was a boy standing with a dog, but the words at the top were all too decayed and brown to read. I ran the light over a big circus poster. It must have been 6 feet wide and at least 4 feet tall. The poster seemed to be glued to the wall, but for a circus poster it was bumpy and kind of saggy in the middle. I wanted to take it out and see it in the light. All the corners looked pretty secure except one. I carefully pulled the top corner, peeled it, and it peeled right off. I took the edge of the poster carefully in both hands and slowly stepped backwards. I could feel little spots of glue break free as the poster came off the wall. The flashlight under my arm slipped down, and the only thing I could see was the floor. Behind the poster, there was another door. The poster was hiding it, or at least covering it up. I bet Dad didn't even know it was down here. I continued rolling the poster, pulling it free from the wall, and used its weight to break the rest of the glue loose. The colors were much brighter than they looked in the dark when I shined the old flashlight on it. In the center of the poster, there was a big circus wagon pulled by 6 white horses, each with huge white feather plumes on their heads. Trapeze artists flew overhead. A parade of elephants, giraffes, and monkeys, and tigers and lions surrounded the wagon. Strange-looking clowns danced in front of the horses, and a man in a top hat seemed to be calling out to them through a megaphone. Captain Billy Peters' Circus of Wonders was across the top in faded yellow and red letters. Even faded, the poster was a wonderful thing. Why were there so many rooms in the basement? The hallway was about 20 feet long. There were no doors on either side, just another door at the other end. I was really ready to open the door with my skeleton key, but this time it didn't work. As I stood in front of the door, I could feel air coming from underneath the door and blowing across my feet. I shot the beam of the flashlight along the bottom of the door. An envelope was sticking halfway out from under the door. I pulled the envelope out. It was about 6 inches long and about 4 inches wide. It was slick with a waxy feel to the paper, and when I turned it over, there was a piece of red twine that looped back and forth like a figure 8 around 2 hard discs. Inside, there were 2 sheets of paper and a key. The paper was yellowed and brittle. As I unfolded the sheets of paper, they broke in half. I decided that I better lay them out on a table or a flat surface so they wouldn't completely disintegrate. I went back upstairs and carefully laid out the 2 sheets of paper on the smooth, clean surface of the counter. The handwriting was cursive and really hard to read. Little by little, as I scanned the pages, I got the flow of the letter. I began to read the pages. July 6th, 1878. Dear Mr. Gladstone, I'm delighted to see that you finally overcome your objections to time travel. What? I can only assume from the length of time you've been gone that you found a time and a place of singular satisfaction. If you're reading this letter, I'm gone. You've been a true faithful friend. Do not sorrow at my absence, for it only means I have found a place that will fill my desires for solitude and peace. You're welcome to anything you can find that you feel is of value. Some of the tools and machinery I have acquired will fetch a good price, but not in this godforsaken hamlet. I'm afraid, and I suggest you take what you will to San Francisco to J. Maynard and Company, suppliers of scientific equipment. They'll give you a fair and reliable price. My sole request of you, dear friend, is that my ledger of notes and drawings be sent to Dr. Phineas Harrison Wilcox at Harvard College in Boston. He and I have shared correspondence for some time now, and he is aware of my work. Many would question the moral and spiritual implications of my work. He has not. Dr. Wilcox will protect the work I have done, and I pray will continue where I have failed. The authorities have made it difficult to continue in my work here. I've been ridiculed and tormented by the community, and I could stand it no more. I'm neither a fool nor insane. I am first and foremost a man of science. Time will find me right and honorable in all things. I'm sorry it falls upon you to tie up the loose ends of my life in Sonora, but I believe to my morrow that history will paint it and you well indeed. Your friend in time, Oswald Morehart. I read the letter twice. What could it mean? If the envelope was still under the door, that means that Mr. Goldstone never showed up. If Goldstone and Morehart were such good friends, why didn't Goldstone come for the letter? I looked down at the rusty key laying on the counter. I picked it up. I rubbed the rusty surface between my thumb and forefinger. One thing was for sure, if I was going to do any exploring down in the basement, I'd need more than a flashlight. I remembered the long orange extension cord that Dad had brought and was using when we first arrived. This old building had very few plugs and electricity until new ones were wired in. I ran upstairs and got the extension cord. I raced back down to the basement. The lock was stiff and it was very difficult to open. I giggled and twisted the key. At last it turned the lock. I plugged in the orange extension cord near the door in the storeroom. When I pushed open the door, I had about 6 feet of extension cord left in the front of the cord and the lamp I brought. I picked up the lamp and went through the door. And all the rooms in this old building were dusty and dirty when we arrived. They were filled with cobwebs, dusty spider webs, and hung in all corners of the ceiling, moldy wallpaper, and the smell of years of being sealed up. I swept up piles and piles of dirt. Our whole family scraped, scrubbed, and painted for a week before school started. As I entered the room, the scene was completely different. It was as if someone just left for the day, not 130 years before. There was a red Persian carpet on the floor, and 2 big brown leather chairs sitting on each side of the fireplace. One wall was floor to ceiling bookcases filled with books. Then, as if divided by an invisible wall, the other side of the room was a workshop with a large wooden workbench. Surrounding it, there were racks of tools and parts of all kinds. A large blackboard was mounted on the wall behind it. Everything was neat and tidy and completely clean. Off to the side of the workshop, standing completely alone, was a large covered object with a beige tarp. Several oil lamps were sitting around the room. Next to the lamp on the workbench was a box of matches. My lamp lit only part of the room, and so it was difficult to see much. I struck one of the matches, and sure enough, it lit. I removed the glass cover, lit the wick. I twisted the little brass knob on the base, and the light grew brighter and lit a larger part of the room. I think it worked better than my lamp. I walked over to the fireplace and lit an oil lamp on the mantel. As I looked around the room, I remembered Morehart asking that his ledger be sent to Harvard. I thought the ledger was something like a bookkeeper kept things in. Why would a scientist need to keep books? There's nothing anywhere that looked like a ledger to me. I found 2 shirts neatly folded and a bundle of letters, but no ledger. I went to the workshop, opened the cupboard, and pulled out a drawer. I was about to give up when I saw a handle under the workbench. I pulled out a drawer, and inside was a large green book with the word ledger across the front. I took the book from the drawer, laid it on the workbench. The cover bulged, and it looked like it was stuffed with paper. I opened the cover to the front page, and it was dated October 16, 1864. Below the date was written, "The Notes and Findings of Oswald Morehart and his work on time and the universe." I couldn't help myself. I laughed as I read the words. Who did this guy think he was, Albert Einstein? Then I realized he lived a long time before Einstein. I blew out the oil lamps and put the ledger under my arm. I picked up my bedroom lamp and went out the door. Just as I started up the steps to my room, I heard a bell tinkle at the front door of the shop. My parents were back. I put the extension cord back in the closet, put the lamp back on my nightstand and plugged it in, and put the ledger under my bed. "Chant, we're back," I heard my mom call from downstairs. "Up here, Mom," I called as I started downstairs. "So, did you get the back room cleaned up?" Dad asked me. "Sure did. It was pretty dirty. I emptied the barrel into the dumpster too." "Thanks, Chant. Very nice of you." I felt kind of bad not telling them about the room downstairs. I would, soon, but for now, it was cool having a secret. "Why don't you go and have a look around? We'll have dinner in about an hour," Mom said, starting up the steps. Just enough time to do some research at the library, I thought. "See you in an hour then," and I headed for the door. Chapter 1, The Time Peddler. Now, what's under that canvas? What's in the ledger? That's what you're going to find out as Chant finds in the basement a time machine and takes journeys back in time. I think you'll really enjoy the book. Originally, I had in mind a book for young adults and families. It has become very, very popular with adults. And so if you'd like to get a copy, there'll be a link down below. And it's available on Amazon in several formats. You can get it for your e-reader. You can get a print version like this. It's even available as an audiobook. And so please don't compare my reading to the guy who did the audiobook. His is much better, I'm afraid. So until next time, when we'll be reading an excerpt from my spy and adventure series called Clean Cut Kid, I hope you'll leave a like on this if you've made it this far. If you haven't made it this far, I guess you couldn't leave a like. And please subscribe because we will continue to do readings from all 6 series that I have out now. And occasionally I'll give some insights into my writing process. I have a newsletter that goes out to all my folks that read my books. And I'm going to be asking them to send in questions they'd like to have answered, either about the books or writing or me or whatever. If you have anything like that you'd like to know, leave it in the comments. And we'll be happy to answer those in an upcoming episode. Until then, don't forget to do something nice for somebody today. The world needs it, and they need you to be kind. So, adieu.